Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Yountville Chamber of Commerce March webinar with Good Things Done Right and Allison Day. I'm Whitney Diver McAvoy. I'm the president and CEO of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. I've known Allison for nearly 10 years now. She is a great friend
Oh,
and does all of our social media for the destination of Yountville, as well as for St. Helena and Calistoga, as well as many, many other clients. And she's an absolute whiz in this stuff and a female founder and started her business here in the Napa Valley. So I couldn't be more proud of her and her achievements over the last 10 years. I'm super excited for her to share this presentation with you today, to make sure that you guys have the tools that you need to utilize social media to its maximum potential. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Allison, and please go ahead and put your questions in the chat and we'll address those at the end of this presentation. Allison.
thanks, Whitney. Yeah, as Whitney said, I think I was one of her first vendor hires when she started in 2017. She's seen the full arc of my business. I've been in the Valley since 2009 doing social media in the nascent days of it, and then launched Good Things Done Right in 2015. And then, yes, started working with the Yountville Chamber in 2017. And so happy to be here. I've done many of these with the chamber, and in the beginning, we were doing a lot of how-tos and getting on board and activating platforms. And now, as I was saying to Whitney, it's exciting to take it to the next level of based in conversation and direction and advice so that it's really sticky and things to consider to apply. Because I created this deck with the understanding that most of you know the essence of social media, and now it's the yes and where we're going from there. So the title of the presentation, The New Face of Social Media in 2025, Expectations, Points of View, What's in and What's Out. So first off, this is a new thing I am focusing on is thank you for being curious. Curiosity is what drives success and
But I had a Zoom that I'm supposed to be.
there and a comfort of being able to test and learn and fail up. So I created this deck with that thought in mind. We're Good Things Done Right. My director of content and brand strategy is listening in as well, Drea Butler. We are a full service digital marketing agency based in Northern California, or North Napa, as you all know, Northern California. And as I said, hungry people are our favorite people. So let's dig in. Here's what we do. These are our top services of social media leadership, audit programs, content development, obviously, product shoots for reels and social imagery, SEO, Google and Meta advertising, influencer programs, and event coverage. So happy to talk about any of these offline at some point, but this is giving you a positioning of where we're approaching. When I started with Whitney in 2017, 2015 as well, we were just doing social media content development, and we've really expanded as the needs have expanded through the lens of digital. This is my team. I've started to share this because I'm so proud of them. We are based, again, in Napa, Santa Rosa, along the West Coast. So Portland, Nevada, New Mexico, and then we just added our digital ad specialist, Brittany. She's based in Georgia and has a deep experience. She used to work at Facebook. So that's been really pivotal for us. But yeah, this is my wonderful team, bringing on another full-time writer based out of Portland next month as well. So here's who you would be working with and the women behind me and Clay. So yeah, let's jump in to the realities. So, we have a lot of clients that we work with that have a lot of goals and objectives. I'm sure you all do too. And we always create strategy around goals and objectives, but we cannot ignore the realities of where we're playing, especially in the digital space. And so it's really important to position yourself around what is really happening. A quick caveat too, I've built this deck to be applied as an ebook for you all as well. So there's a lot more text than I usually include in decks, but I found that again comes back to my goal of trying to make things more worthwhile for people. So the idea is for you to be able to take this and apply it later and really listen to all that I'm talking to and not need to take a ton of notes because it's all right here for you. But the reality is that we're looking at in 2025, again, I laid out about 9 of them so that we can focus on and then touch on later in the deck. But Instagram remains the top priority through strategy. That's not to say that other platforms aren't being activated, but we really build our strategies from the top down of Instagram and then feathering out from there. Followed by LinkedIn is really coming in hot. We have a lot of clients that are adding us to their LinkedIn strategies as well. That's through the brand point of view and also individual stakeholders within those brands. And then followed by TikTok and YouTube. And again, Facebook's not off the plate by any means, nor is Pinterest, but these again are where we are focusing on and where you should consider starting from. Influencers, always a contentious topic amongst clients and people we talk to in the social space. It's been the Wild West for quite a few years. It's starting to get more regulated. There's plans coming into place, but they are absolutely in 2025 part that needs to be part of the conversation. So we'll talk more about influencers later in the deck, but again, that's a reality. And then as far as the way that content is created, short form video is really where people are focusing on, followed by videos under 10 minutes. I don't know who's creating 10-minute long videos. I'm thinking it's more like 1 to 5 minutes is when they would consider the long form videos. But video, I hate to break it to you. I'm always looking for other ways to work around that, but you need to have video in your social strategy in 2025. But followed by, through the lens of static, carousels are really coming back as a prioritized output for the platform. So I really love carousel content. I think it's really deep storytelling and allows you to leverage your static posts. So video and carousels are really what, again, the performing realities of Instagram are that then can be translated into other platforms too. While short-term video remains dominant, there is still a growing shift. I probably should have reworded that more to being like, absolutely, the need for more thoughtful storytelling and content. I'll talk about this later in the deck, but this dovetails into answering the question of why should people care? And so the storytelling around your brand and how you're creating content, people are looking for that. And it's complementing the shorter form video, shorter form captioning to having also on your feed some longer form content that, again, builds your brand and develops thought leadership within and brand trust within what you're pushing out. We're going to talk about AI too. I feel like this is also along the lines of influencer, where it's a scary sort of place for people to dive into. I know Andreas from WSI did a webinar on AI, probably more technical than what I'm going to talk about today, but still applicable to what we're doing within the digital space. But absolutely, AI should be on your radar in 2025. And then adopting a social first strategy when you're activating your full digital plan and actually even your overall marketing plan. So it's building out a plan past just the pushing out of content. What is it that you're taking in? So we also have met with potential clients. They usually don't end up working with us because they don't agree with this, but it isn't just about creating a content calendar, scheduling it and letting it go. It's about this 360 atmosphere of the yes and. What are we doing in conjunction to that? Yes, we're creating the content. The content is actually one part of the full wheel on this. So building the online community, your online community, listening to your audience. This is such a great place to figure out what your audience cares about so that you can apply it to your email marketing, to your tasting, or in in tasting room experiences or in hotel experiences, and really taking this community that you're building and making it more than, again, just your social posts. Customer feedback, again, this dovetails off of what I just said. Customer feedback should not be isolated to just social media. So again, it should be integrated amongst your whole strategy. It's really important to listen to what your customers are saying to you from a feedback point of view, what they're saying in your comments, what they're saying in your DMs, what they're not responding to and what they are responding to can have a halo effect to what you're doing on social. Paid to play, paid advertising, budget has to be in your plan in 2025. If you're hiring an outside vendor, yes, there is benefit to hiring them to just doing organic content for sure. But you are not going to see ROI. You are not going to see, and even this applies to your in-house team as well. You're not going to see the ROI on time spent if you don't have a paid budget to get in front of the right audience. So we'll talk more about paid strategy further on in the deck, but that's a reality in 2025. You have to have a paid strategy. And ephemeral content still matters. So this is, again, Instagram stories, disappearing messages, and time-sensitive content that drives engagement. People are still really responding to that. Instagram stories have been a really robust strategy that we've leveraged in 24 very successfully, and we're taking it into 25 in conjunction with a tighter feed. Social media is also becoming a search engine. It's not becoming, it actually is a search engine. So now more than ever too, millennials, which are now our target market through Wine Country, and then Gen Z. I know we're not quite talking to them yet, but we are priming the pump for that. They are using social to understand your brand before they even show up to your website. That is a huge aspect of wanting to understand what your hours are, what your menu looks like, what the full experience is, and then they take that conversion to your website. So looking at social, your social presence in that way is really critical for success in 25. Personalization is also no longer an option. It has to be there. So the time of generic plug and chug content, we'll talk more about that later in the deck too, is out. Identifying your niches, your community, and who's watching you and who you want to have following you is really critical, in creating content around that is where success is in 25. And then last, this is a reality that's been this way since the beginning of social media, is the algorithm will always change. So the team talks about this constantly. We cannot have a fixed mindset. We cannot have an attitude of, well, this is how it's always been. Oh, we just learned this. Well, buckle up, ladies. We have to figure out another way to do this. So understanding and preparing for that is crucial in having digital work for you in 25 without being like totally frustrated all of the time. And I was telling Whitney and I were talking about this before. I do send out a weekly email to my clients right now, but I'm considering doing one for non-clients where it's a weekly update of the whirly gig that is digital marketing and all the updates that are coming in hot and heavy. So if you would like to join the non-client email that I'm putting together, please follow up with me after this, and I'd be happy to bring you into the chaotic good. The biggest reality of 25, this is going to take specific slides because I really wanted to focus on this. And this has been the most uncomfortable part of digital in 24, 25 that people are having a really hard time adopting. We have some clients that are endlessly wanting to talk about this because they're having a hard time wrapping their arms around it. Follower count is dying. The importance of follower count is dying. And how do we get future online success? So yeah, remember when followers were everything? We were talking about it endlessly. We were watching the growth happening. It was, oh, we grew 100 this month. We grew 500 this month. When are we going to hit 10,000, et cetera, et cetera? That has shifted. This is a quote from the founder of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, about how they changed the priorities of the algorithm and how they're serving content. So it used to be that your follower count was directly correlated with how many people would consume and see your content. That's no longer the case, which is actually kind of a pretty good thing, because your acquisition then is really open depending on the quality of your content. Um, it changed because they moved it from now engagement is more prioritized than followers. So they're looking at the quality of your content and what people are saying, wow, this is interesting. They're responding to the invisibility crisis. So that means, sending out content to every feed that was of your follower, your content gets lost in that. There wasn't any way to prioritize it other than, okay, 30,000 people potentially would see this, but creators and brands were finding that their content still wasn't being seen because there was, again, no way to organize it. Then the ROI revolution. So there's been a change in people's expectations of ROI, especially with high follower count. And we really are looking, understandably, for more conversion off platform. So again, I'll be talking about these each of the next slides, and scrollers don't care. I mean, that's a really important thing to realize and embrace, especially in this activated political climate when things are going on. There is so much in a scroller's feed. You have to get them to care. And many don't, about throwaway content and such. So that has become, you don't have a captive audience anymore in your high follower account. It's really about getting these new followers in. And then credibility matters. This was in response to a lot of influencers buying followers. And so you would see these influencers with like 50,000 followers, and then they would have like no engagement or anything around that. And they really hung their hat on this follower account. And then the platforms were like, okay, thanks so much. That's no longer that important. So again, platforms now prioritize engagement over followers. So engagement over followers, meaning you put your content out and you could have 30,000, somebody else could have 10,000. And if the people that have 10,000 followers are getting more likes, comments, and shares and saves on their content, that will be shared multiple times more, 4 times more in average than somebody with a high follower account. And you can actually assume, give or take, that about 16% of your followers are seeing your content when it's organic. So again, we'll talk about the pay to play aspect of it, but we're speaking strictly organic. If you have really good content that's getting high engagement, it's really about, that's great, and we'll be sharing not only to your follower feed, but people that would potentially be interested in that. So the new ROI. So again, that's where looking for highly engaged followers, highly engaged viewers, as opposed to high followers on this. So is it dead? Follower account? No, it's not, but it's just deprioritized. So again, follower count is great for social proof for new potential audience members. I do think we all have it in our head when we see somebody with 2,000 followers versus 600, that feels like people have bought into that more, but we are no longer needing to chug to 20,000 to be relevant. I like to say when we're starting a new Instagram feed, especially, it's like, okay, let's hit that first 1,000. That's great. Let's hit 2,500. Then let's hit 5. And I actually think we can idle there. Of course, we want growth still, but we don't need to have an endless conversation about hitting 10,000 or 20,000 when we could be focusing on the quality of content. Again, there's initial credibility signals. This goes back to the small, like the super small follower accounts under 1,000 versus, again, that 30,000. I'm now actually looking at ones with 50, 70,000 and not really caring about that number. It doesn't feel real to me. I mean, again, I'm in the business, so I know, but I think a sweet spot is between 5 and 10,000 feels really good, really robust, and you have a good likelihood that your followers are actually real people that have a potentiality to convert. It also establishes a baseline reach for your potential content. This goes back to that 16%. But I don't think you really need to wrap around that because, again, if you have the paid budget, that becomes less important. And it's a rough indicator of brand awareness. So you know that people are seeing it and choosing to follow you. Again, that's a great indicator, but it's not something that's ongoing every month, a discussion that needs to be happening around growth. So I would say that it would be a secondary or tertiary metric versus a primary goal. So if you're a marketing director on the team, if you're a social media manager on the team, I really encourage you to have these conversations with your stakeholders and continue to have that conversation. That is a reality of 25. We can have it in our head that we care about 15 to 30,000 followers, et cetera, but you're wasting your team's time focusing on that when they could really be focusing on more content and content quality. So again, what to focus on: reframing those expectations, develop the value first content strategy, and consider and have a real conversation about where you want your team, if you're a marketing director or an owner, on where you want your team to focus their time on balancing community management so that grows that engagement, or versus audience acquisition through traditional methods of spending your budget or the growth metrics. So up to you. Here are some metrics to take into account. And again, you'll get this deck afterwards so you can make note of these, but the engagement rate formula is a really valuable formula that takes in your full engagement rate. I recommend you can look at them per post and aggregately per month to watch growth around that. We report each individual metric with our clients. So we track the likes, we track the comments, we track the shares, and we track the saves individually, but you can do an aggregate with dividing that all by overall impressions to see your rate when you're reporting to your stakeholders. Again, this measures how much your audience actively interacts with your content. I should have put shares and saves over comments and conversations because I actually think that's more important. We are looking, and this is another whole section I could talk about, but I didn't include this in the deck for time. But people are changing the way they're engaging. They absolutely are. They're scrolling, they're watching videos, but they're doing more engagement privately, meaning shares, which they're saying to you, your content is valuable enough to share within their community through DMs, and saves, which indicates an even deeper value that they want to return to your content. So we're always looking for ways when we're creating content of getting people to want to share it to their friends, especially through the lens of travel, and then saving. So actionable tips, or these are the restaurants you have to go to, save this post, those sorts of indicators. And then comments and conversations. So, and actually the platforms are tracking the amount of DMs you're receiving in conjunction to your on-feed comments. But think about the brands that you're representing and what kind of comments and ongoing conversation is really likely to be happening through the DMOs and the chambers. We do see that conversation continuing. They like to engage, but I'm thinking of it through the lens of an individual wine brand or a resort or such. Be realistic about what the content you're posting. Does it elicit somebody's need to leave a comment? I don't really do that a lot, but I definitely DM brands often. Then they can have a conversation there. So instead of calls to action around leave a comment below about your favorite thing, invite them into your DMs. DM us for a link to book. DM us if you would like to know more, about X. Those sorts of invitations to get into DMs will, again, increase the way that the algorithm is looking at your content, and going back to that sharing out to more people is a really great way to increase that. So that goes into then content creation. Drea, who is on the call, is probably nodding her head vigorously on this one. We have really doubled down on this. 2025, quality over quantity. The little caveat I say about this is the work that we do for the DMOs, the scope and our deliverables are a little different on this. And we have had very clear success metrics and expectations around that because we just have so many members and information that we put out that we do both quality and quantity because we have been tracking that the audience does respond to that. So I wouldn't necessarily mirror what we're doing on Yountville for what your all individual brands needs are, but that's again a little levers that you can play with. But we really believe in quality over quantity. You do not need to post every day on your feed. Stories could be considered a place to go on that, but feed posts should be of the highest quality, of the most evergreen kind of content too. So announcing big events and stuff, probably yes, because that's brand building, but we're closed today doesn't need to be in the feed. You put those in stories, those sorts of things. And again, this goes back to the survival of the fittest in a saturated industry. GTDR has developed a strategy called the 9 grid strategy, where we are really laser focused on what the 9 grid constantly looks like. So we build strategy around content pillars, and then we make sure that the way that we curate the content, whenever you're looking at the 9 grid, which is the amount that you're seeing in, on your phone, is an accurate representation of the brand always. So it has a nice curation of all the content pillars and serves as a really robust proxy to the website. If you look at our gtdr.social feed, that's been our strategy. I'm not updating my feed very often. We have our feed. We have put a 9 grid on there that we're redoing our site. We have a new brand coming. And so the 9 grid serves as our de facto website right now, where each post talks about what we offer, and then we utilize stories for updated content. So the 9 grid strategy is something that we're living right now, and takes the pressure. We don't have a lot of social because I'm too busy managing all yours. So it's like, how can we leverage an effective social place that feels accessible for someone as busy as me, busy as you all are, and keep that alive? The 9 grid strategy is where it's at. Happy again offline to talk more about that with you all. This will be it's a quick takeaway though. If you're looking for consistency and how to create content and show up for platforms, consistency is key, but you don't need to oversaturate it. So Instagram stories and Facebook stories, which Facebook stories you should not be ignoring either. You can just shove your Instagram stories straight to Facebook, but those could be almost every week if you have relevant and important things to say. The feed should be about 2 to 3 times for a small to medium-sized brand. It's just really about what kind of content you're sharing out there. TikTok, probably 4 times a week just to get that algorithm going and feed the beast. LinkedIn, 3 times a week. Nobody needs to hear from you on LinkedIn more than 3 times a week. Honestly, that's busy. They don't need to. And we want to stay really laser focused on that platform. Pinterest, 3 pins a week, sweet spot. You could probably do more on that, but we really find that we do have success with 3 pins a week on that. Things to remember. This is for stakeholders and marketing directors specifically. You must test and learn, and you must be prepared to have failures. Digital is not an upward continuous trajectory up. It is a roller coaster up and down in an upward point of view. So hanging your hat on social success every time without activating any other spaces and expecting social to do all the performance without leaving any space for, oh, that didn't perform as well, or, oh, okay, we tested this, or taking risks, you're missing an opportunity. We're really encouraging our clients to bring us on not as complete change makers for them, but partners in exploring what their brand can and cannot do on digital. So test and learn against the platforms. This is a thought that I applied to my whole life, personally and professionally. Ask yourself, why would people care about this? In my conversation, I try to do that. When people talk to me, I try to do that. And then translating it to digital is really important. You can easily go through somebody's social feed and very clearly see they have never asked themselves why people would care about this. So if you can answer that, and this is what I tell my team too, if you can answer why someone should care about this post, get them to like it, it gives them information, it builds branding, thought leadership, etc., then you know you're going in the right direction. If you're just posting kind of a throwaway post, I call it the Sunday Fun Day syndrome. It's like, what brand needs to take this space that is already saturated and put something up that doesn't give the viewer something to do? And that doesn't mean buying something, but just engaging them to do something else, saving it, sharing it, etc. Very important. Using AI, again, we'll talk about this in some other slides, using AI to plan and execute, but not to create. So I have a theory that AI will become like the food system, where now people are valuing farm to table food experiences. Soon people will be valuing like mind to paper, like writing experiences, where humans will be the commodity around creating content. We're not there yet, but AI is definitely not there from a content creation point of view. I can absolutely see when people use AI to create their content. We use AI and GTDR to formalize processes, to ideate around it, but we definitely do not use it to write content that goes out, because it's just not there. So it's being really thoughtful about how you leverage AI, understanding each platform's need and point of view. So doing posting everything on the same platform just doesn't work, and then doesn't invite your viewer to want to follow you on multiple platforms if it's the same thing everywhere. And as I keep saying, that video content is a must. So I won't go through all these. You can read these afterwards, but this is the high-level demographics of each platform. You'll see that Facebook has the most monthly active users, but Instagram is the one where new activations are happening and new followers it's growing from a new demographic set. So that's why we prioritize that at the top. So it'll be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn demographics around that. So paid in 2025. So after working in the digital space for over a decade, there's no perfect budget. People always ask us that, like, what should we be paying? What should we be, allocating? We can definitely give you ranges around that, but we have come in with some where it's like, yes, spend $500 a month and nothing's happening. So then we need to up it a bit more to get that flywheel going. It's all about picking a number and beginning to, again, test and learn against that. But you have to consider a budget to make to have meaningful growth and eventual ROI and effective time spent on platform. So paid strategies to consider. So social media, of course, email marketing and SEO are consistently the top three priorities around digital activation. We have gone into email marketing for a lot of our clients too, because they're finding a lot of synergy between the work that we're doing on social, translating it into email. And I mean, the email numbers don't lie as far as conversion goes. Obviously, people that have shared their email with you have indicated a deeper brand trust with you and want to hear from you in their inbox, and are very high, much more high to take a conversion and an action from there. Focus on the platforms where your target audience is most active. So again, I said we prioritize Instagram, but that's not the case for every client. We come in and that's our starting place. And then we quickly see what platforms are responding and spend more time on there. Facebook is still really good for some of our clients from a conversion point of view. It just depends on your success metrics. And this is anecdotal and overly generalized, and we kind of all know this, but TikTok and IG are really the spaces for new follower acquisition. And I did a talk with the vintners in December with all wineries, and they're talking about new potential clients. I know this is just the same 10 years ago that millennials were treated, where it was like, oh, millennials, they're not the buying audience. Now they are. And who has primed the pump for them is seeing much more results than the ones who ignored them 10 years ago. The same should be treated for Gen Z. They're not the buyer now, but they will be ready to have more deeper experiences, and they will hopefully have money to take that action. But it's all about giving them, that's the inspirational content, and the millennials are the actionable content. Influencers, another place for paid strategy for budget. You have a couple, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about this in another slide. Sponsored content, product placement, and co-branded campaigns are really effective ways to do that. Video and interactive ads. So video ads are really where it's performing, sending things on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm sure you've all seen our latest activation of Napa Valley North. We're also exploring some Spotify ads too through that. And that has had some, we haven't started those yet, but they have some really deep potentiality to deliver through that. So again, explore new places, especially where it's not oversaturated, so you get more for your money. But YouTube is a great place to begin to explore outside of the Meta product line. And then retargeting. So this is social media probably 3.0, but we're seeing a lot of great results on that. So again, we spend our time on social, driving to the website, populating the pixel so that then we run retargeting ads. So those ads get in front of people on social that are further down the funnel that have said, oh, I know that brand, I see that brand, and have higher likelihood of taking an action and converting. And then investing in first-party data versus with the decline of third-party data limits, especially through ads. So first-party data is, again, building your email list so that we can, again, turn around and upload those into especially Meta, but Google for retargeting, account signups, and loyalty programs, because then we create not only retargeting, but lookalike audiences. So that's when you're building ads, you can pull down like-minded people from those email lists and then put them up into Meta and then find new groups. Those have fantastic conversions around that. And then leveraging both Meta and Google Ads. So we've also built our offerings into Google Ads because we have just seen so many great results on that, especially through the wine lens and travel. So a lot of our former resort clients have seen a lot of effectiveness in that conversion with having both Meta and Google Ads running with a robust social media presence. So I'm not going to read through all of this with AI, but this is again why I built this deck like this so that you can take it away and dig into it. We have used a lot of these programs, but then I've also pulled programs that colleagues in the business have highly recommended. So there's some really great ways to leverage AI through digital. So again, automating tasks. We love Zapier. Improving customer experience. So Drift.com and Intercom have been the ones that I've heard the best from. Increasing revenue and optimizing campaigns. We use Google Ads, but there's Clary.com and Clearbit. Streamlining content strategy. So this is, again, building strategy, ideating, ChatGPT, Jasper, and Gemini. Gemini is my favorite. I feel like it actually kind of feels like I'm having a real thoughtful conversation and giving some different ideas to then dovetail off that then I create content from. And then enhancing ROI through smarter decision making. So Klaviyo Analytics is hands down one of my favorite ones to get in there, but I've heard great things about Tableau as well. So this is, again, a place for you to dig into, do some demos. The demo on these platforms has been pretty great. The sales pipeline is kind of annoying, just as an FYI, but the more you can get into just kind of centering yourself on those spaces can really pay off. Influencers. So this is the next level of what we're talking about with how you can engage with influencers and some deeper ideas on what that looks like. This really should be applied through the lens of a paid budget on that. So collaborating with authentic content, leveraging niche influencers. So that's micro and nano. Micro is between 10 and 20,000, give or take. Nano is probably 7,000 and below. Found a lot of great success with nano influencers who are hungry to work with us and want to create great content for a couple hundreds of dollars versus thousands of dollars and those sorts of things. And you're still getting in front of their smaller audience, but those audiences are often pretty hungry to get that content, and the trust is there, and you get content created from that. We've done tasting experience and event activation with influencers as well. And then also personalized campaigns. So working with influencers to develop a specific campaign. We have plans for that for the wine passport, the beer and wine passport that we're doing with Yountville and as Napa Valley North. And those will be personalized campaigns that isn't just someone holding something up and being like, great, buy this. It's really working with them through the brand. Shopping experiences too. So we have a client, we're spending $20,000 a month on influencers. They have a really sexy product called Dirty Martini Juice that is, and we're going out and finding influencers that are creating recipe content and mostly recipe content, but then having buyable links in their shopping experience. And it's really paid off on that. And then we also get the content to turn around and create Google ads from that. So again, considering the shopping experience around that for both Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest, always something to think about. Long-term partnerships is also really crucial. DMOs are a little different. We can have them come in and talk about the experience through the lens of travel, but especially with wine brands, and I would even say resorts and other non-wine experiences, the ongoing partnerships of bringing them in multiple times develops this brand trust, and where people want to engage and are saying, oh, my favorite influencer who I trust this brand, and I'm seeing it multiple times. So in 2025, it's no longer that one-off collaboration, it's looking at the ones with long-term partnerships. And then co-branding opportunities too. So again, coming back into this long-term partnership where you co-brand together and get the maximum lead time with both of your audiences. Key tips with all of this: you must have a budget, you must sign a contract, and you must insist on approving content. If you don't pay them, you don't get to approve content typically, but this is where it really pays off. And, you know, the Wild West of a couple of years ago, and people were just saying yes to influencers, and then they were posting things they didn't know. That's kind of where that attitude came from. Having the budget changes that, and coming in with really clear expectations of what you want, and then saying no and finding one that will work with you. Things to prioritize, and this is overall from your digital strategy: authenticity and transparency. Meet the consumer where they're at. You might care about it, you might think it's important, but if you're not meeting them where they're at, they're not going to engage with you. As I've said, video content and cross-platform consistency and integration, not only on digital, but in-store experience. So we do a lot of digital activation, and then we see that nothing goes out on email, nothing happens in a tasting room or in the lobby of the hotel experience. Pulling in your digital strategy and engagement so that you're talking about the same things is crucial. Deprioritizing your over-reliance on generic content. Everybody's bored. Everybody has short attention spans. You must go back to the why people should care thing. We've already been there, done that, and seen that. You need to take it to the next level. Vanity metrics, follower count, big numbers with no engagement. If you have 5,000 likes and no comments, it's like, okay. Excessive paid ads without organic engagement. So organic engagement means your back end metrics of what people are looking at from the basis. If you're spending all this money too, but you haven't really worked on your content, waste of time. And then over reliance on trends. For the love of everything that's good, stop it. Just stop it. It's like if the Bernie Sanders sitting on the chair and everybody and their mother did that, like, it doesn't move your brand. It stresses your social media team out, and it doesn't move the needle. Be thoughtful about what trends matter. And you probably, honestly, most likely don't need to participate in them. And then image, these are my last two slides. My image, kind of where to put your cares on it. Authenticity over perfection. So you can use an iPhone. You can use your iPhone for video as well. It doesn't have to be a professional photographer, but it must look good. So you need to have a critical eye through, is it bright? Is it bold? Contrasting colors often perform better. Whose hand is holding the wine bottle? Is it like hairy and weird looking, and then people are just going to be looking at that and not your label? What does the food on your plate look like? Does that look like food? What does the background look like? Did you put a napkin behind it? Those sorts of things really matter long term in the reshareability, especially with like the chambers resharing content too. All of that matters. And then making sure that your crops look good in the new positioning around the different layouts so that your crops look good when it's on the feed. That goes back to that 9 grid. Um, Visual storytelling, super important. What are you talking about? What are you focusing on? You can't just throw something up without any context. You must think about what it looks like to your overall brand. Text on images really is a big thing these days. While I do believe in more longer form content and shorter form as a complementary sort of thing, text on images must be short, sweet, and to the point. And you must continuously track your visuals. We use a lot of user-generated content with the chambers. That gives us some space to test, but we're not in the weeds, like able to fine tune those all the time. But with brands that give that within our scope, we are constantly looking at different ways and different points of view and different approaches on that. I had looked at the time, so I started to speed up, but there's so much more to talk about. If you all would like to email me afterwards too, I have a couple of other things in a deck I would be happy to send you in conjunction to this about old and new algorithm, and then some talking points on things not to say to your social media manager for 2025. So if you'd like that, you can give me an email on that, but welcome your comments, questions, and conversation.
Allison, amazing job. Big round of applause. That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. And I took a lot of notes, even though you told me not to. It was really spectacular.
I got it. You got it.
We have a number of questions in the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask those to you. Don't worry about reading them. The first one was from Ashley, and I think you partially answered this, but if you could maybe elaborate, what do you mean by throwaway content?
Was that for the ephemeral content? Was that when I was talking about that? That one?
I don't remember exactly when it was mentioned. But I just wasn't sure.
So ephemeral,
I'm an amateur here, so I apologize if it's a stupid question. Just wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Qualified. No, everything is all good. So throwaway content, I probably meant ephemeral content too. So there's the feed posts that are the content that sticks and stays. And that's like your brand positioning content. And then, for lack of a better term, throwaway content, meaning we're closed tonight for a special event, or something that doesn't have the long tail should go into stories and should not be as part of your feed curation, because you're thinking of it in the short term versus the long term. Bigger throwaway content is the Sunday fun day stuff, where it's like posting that you're having a shot of the patio. Okay, nice. But what's the next thing? It can feel kind of throwaway if there's not a call to action around that.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Okay, and then Letitia asked, curious about video content. How professional and polished does it need to be? Is it okay to start with quick phone captured videos with basic edits?
Yes, so CapCut is your friend. It's actually pretty easy to learn, and you can add a couple of quick, transition. It's crazy how much transitions can add to the professionality. Yes, you can use your iPhone. You must make sure that the sound is good. If the sound is not good, put music over it, and it must be well lit. So those are kind of my two caveats to the not professional content. But Letitia, through the lens of like Napa Humane, you're there on an adoption day. It's like shoot a bunch of content on your phone, lots of pans, put music over it, and then use the caption to tell the story. Perfect. So that you don't even have to worry about the sound. But yes, iPhone is fine.
Yeah, great example. I love that. Okay, Melanie asks, are you seeing micro and nano influencers who are willing to create content as a trade for product or experiences, or is the expectation true payment even for these small scale influencers?
Definitely trade still happening, for sure. It's all about what you're trading. There is not a one size fits all. Again, Yountville, we have a paid strategy in place, but then we also bring in other influencers that are willing to do trades for an experience or such, because we have a good product to trade with them. So it's really all about what they're getting, but we find a lot, even with the olive oil dirty martini juice client that I was talking about, yeah, we do some trade for that. And that's really through the lens of them creating content. It's all about a conversation. And I wouldn't be afraid to lead with that. And then when they come back with like a number, you can always negotiate from that as well.
Perfect. And then Lisa asks, what are your thoughts on hiding post likes on Instagram?
I think I think it's now become this indicator that, oh, the post didn't perform very well. So it's a either or for me. I don't really, it doesn't really matter to me. It's really up to the specific brand. I don't really like to hide. You either hide it all or you don't hide it at all. It's one or the other. I find, yeah, when I go into ones that just have like a couple of posts hidden, I'm like, oh, obviously that one didn't perform very well because they want to hide it. So I think it's creating which one you want to do as opposed to ad hoc.
Perfect. And then Peyton asks, could you please elaborate on the 9-post grid strategy? Does this mean only having 9 posts on the feed and achieving all order and archiving all older posts, or making sure the first 9 posts that a user sees falls within our company's content pillars?
Yeah, so there's two strategies to do this with my super small brands who are like, I'm so overwhelmed with content creation. We have a leadership package one where we create content, full stop, all board, they bring us on, so their feed's going. Then we have others that bring us in to lead them and direct them. Again, happy to share these packages with you all too, but when they're like, I don't have time to post all the time. I could do stories, but I really want a great feed. I do recommend, and that's what we do on gtdr.social too, is this static 9 grid that will be updated quarterly, but then we're doing stories constantly. That's that. But for a bigger brand, especially that has an in-house team that has time to do this and work on it, it is all about just making sure that that 9 grid stays curated. So being really thoughtful about like, okay, will this post make the 9 grid look funky all of a sudden? That kind of idea of whenever you're just taking a snapshot of the last 9 posts, does that go back to the strategy that you've created?
Perfect.
Again, happy to talk about this. You can send me an email to Drea and I. Drea loves the 9 grid too, so we'd be happy to discuss more of that strategy.
You're being very concise with your answers. Great job.
Oh, good.
Jackie asks, can you talk about how many times it takes for a customer to see content to take action? For example, when promoting a summer wine event, general strategy with timing and quality of promotion.
Oh, yeah. You're not going to like this answer. Follower typically needs to see a piece of content 4 times before they even take an action and that means going to the website even. And this is through the lens of selling something. Other things where it's like just content engagement is different, but when you're asking someone to buy a ticket or to do something like that, it takes about 4 times for them to go to the website. Then they need to see the content probably 2 more times to then click to the website again. And depending on your user journey and ease of click through to purchase the ticket and price point, because we all are also in a completely different attitude about spending right now too. You have to be thoughtful about what the reality of that is. But you're going to need to start earlier so that you can pivot and test those calls to action. Imagery and actually video for selling events is probably the best place to approach on that too. And you cannot just rely on social to sell your event tickets.
Yes.
It's social, it's a digital strategy through Google probably, and email. And if you want to sell a wine dinner, for example, you cannot start 4 weeks out. You need a long lead, and that's feed posts, that's stories, storytelling around that, and then ads that are direct calls to action.
Well
and
said.
and a budget.
Very good. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I'd be happy to give you the last word. Any last things that you want to share with us before we wrap it up?
Yes, be realistic, be thoughtful, and look at the big picture. This is not about going viral. This is not about doing things like, hey, can can you turn this around the next day? A real true social strategy is a marathon, not a sprint. And those timelines are getting longer. So being realistic with your team about what that looks like, or yourself about what that looks like, and not thinking it's just you're going to turn it on today and then you're going to see immediate results tomorrow. It's about looking at the big picture. But I'm so glad you all are here and caring about this stuff. We love talking about it. So please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is allison@gtdr.social.
Wonderful job, Allison. Truly tremendous. And thank you so much for being here today. And thanks everybody for joining us. That concludes the end of our March webinar on social media trends for 2025. We greatly appreciate you all, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.